Okay, so always saying people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah guys, it will be a quick introduction today. Didn't take any trades this week, so we'll just get straight into the analysis after a pretty busy week, busy period in the market the past few weeks. This week didn't really give me anything. I did have something on USD CAD, but I missed that setup. We'll go over that in a second when we take a look at USD CAD eventually. But yeah, no trades this week, so I'll go straight onto the analysis. And obviously we've got EURUSD up first. So with EURUSD, crazy week for this one as well. Big move to the downside. We have price can break structure to the upside as well. You know, taking these highs out there, seeing some new highs. Then we had this big sell-off to the downside. And this is what I was looking for, EURUSD to take out these lows, continue further to the downside, and then I'll look for a correction, and then the continuation to the downside, and really get this bearish trend on the roll. But we didn't see that. The market respected these lows. So with EURUSD, I'm not looking to do anything with this market structure until we start breaking some highs or breaking some lows. Now EURUSD has been respecting this support here quite well. We've obviously had the creation of the support level, respected again and respected again. This is telling me that sellers are starting to fail and we potentially could be going bullish. And I say that as well because we've had these very impulsive bearish moves, and even these impulsive bearish moves kind of just turn on a dime when we get to this level, which is not a good sign for the bears. If we're very corrective, then okay, we might pick up pace and eventually go and break it on a strong impulse. But we've already had two strong attempts trying to break through the level and two big failures. So for EURUSD, I'm actually looking for us to go and take out these highs. If you take out these highs, then I'll look for the correction, and then I'll be looking for the continuation higher. And this is probably the area that I'll probably look for that higher low to form. Potentially, if we get a big push and a big break of the structure, break of those highs, then I may look for the retest, of the high for some buys. But yeah, it just depends how big the breakout is. So this is kind of what I'm looking at for EURUSD, but we could get something like this. I'm also interested in the sells as well, but we do need to violate these lows first, and then I'll look for the correction and the continuation. And again, a retest of that support level, maybe a retest of this support term resistance. Either which way, I'm happy to look for buys and sells, but I need, either this low to be taken out or this high to be taken out, and that's when I'll start looking for my entries to follow the direction. If it's to the upside, then I'll start looking for some buys. If it's to the downside, I'll start looking for some sells. But all of this price action here is pretty much just consolidation. We've got some equal lows, some few higher highs, but the market really isn't going anywhere. We had a really nice bearish trend over the past few weeks. That's starting to exhaust and starting to form this kind of consolidation, which is not something that I want to jump into. Hence why I want price to start taking out some highs or start taking out some lows, and then I'll start to follow EURUSD in whichever direction it wants to go in. But because we've got these equal lows here, we've got these 3 attempts for the market to go lower and 3 failures, and we're actually starting to see some higher highs here. So we've got a high over there, got a higher high, just about another higher high, and then we've got another higher high there. So the market, from a bullish perspective, is actually pushing higher slightly within this consolidation, but the lows here are just smacking into that same support level every time. So I would anticipate EURUSD to probably continue this bullish kind of corrective nature, probably violate those highs there. Then I'll look for my correction and continuation. Like I said, if there's a big push, now look for the retest of 1.075. I'm not too sure if it will be because we are quite corrective here, so it probably tells us that we'll probably maybe just about break through the highs. So this is probably the level I'll probably look to trade from. Obviously we'll stay adaptive and reactive, what happens with the market. We may get a big break, then we'll look at this level. We may get a shallow break, then we'll look at this level. It just depends what the market's giving us. Or looking at long opportunities if we can take out those highs. Same thing with the sells. If you take out these lows, then I'll look for the correction. But this is what I favor this week, but I will pivot if need be if we start taking out the lows. And targets, we can probably look at this consolidation here on the left, which is around 1.08960. We've got the resistance of it, which gave us a big move to the downside from that level. So that probably will be the target. Maybe you can look at something a bit more shallower, this support level here. But for the risk to reward, I'll probably push my trade a little bit further. That'll probably be an area where I probably take some partials off and start to manage the trade. But the target will be up here to this resistance at 1.09200, we'll call it. So yeah, that's the plan for EURUSD going to next week. Looking for a break of the highs and then pull back, and then we'll go long. If we do break the lows, then I'll just look for the exact same setup going down, and targets we'll be looking at these lows, which is what I'll be talking about for for quite some time now. So yeah, that's the plan for EURUSD next week. Hopefully we can break through some highs, look for the pullback, and then we'll look for some continuations either at 1.07500 or at 1.06850 for next week. Okay, so over to USD JPY. So for this week, some really nice downside. The market gapped down, really strong momentum to the downside, had some corrections and some more continuation to the downside as well, clearing out some lows and also giving us some lower highs. So looking at the high time frames, it looks like we do have that head and shoulder pattern starting to play out quite well, especially with the momentum closure on this week's candle. You probably could see the momentum pick up a little bit over the next couple of weeks and probably take us into these lows. And the head and shoulder I'm talking about is the left shoulder here, the head over there, and then potentially now the right shoulder. And that could take us back down to this level here and potentially further as well. If it's going to be a complete reverse of this bullish trend, we could be doing that for quite some time as well. But now we'll just be focusing on a push into these lows here at 127.723. So for USD JPY, we have completely broken out this bullish structure here with these higher highs and higher lows, broken structure, clean moves to the downside, and now we're seeing some continuation. So now we've got some bearish structure. So no longer interested in the buyers anymore for USD JPY. That's completely gone, unless obviously we start breaking through some bearish structure now and giving some higher highs and higher lows, then I'll get back onto the buys, but only if that happens. For now, we're focusing on the sells. Got bearish structure here on the 4H, and we're looking for that to continue until we get to 127.500, 128 down at those lows there, and potentially further as well. So now we just need to look for some areas to get involved with, and the area that I'm personally looking at for USD JPY is at this resistance here. I like it. It's quite corrective, but if you can get a trade around this area here, we can probably get a really safe stop loss and still take advantage of the sales to the downside. Because although we are seeing some really nice momentum to the downside, we are quite corrective. This support level held quite well. We're only just looking like we're breaking through that support level, so it's not a particularly very bearish market. So we don't really want to be looking for shallow retracements, because there's a good chance you probably get stopped out as the market probably has a deeper retracement. So 133.600 is most likely where I'll be looking for my entries, unless we get a strong continuation, because the market could be quite bearish on the open like it was this week. We could see the market push down a couple hundred pips. If that's the case, then yeah, a retest of 132.356 will look good, but only if we really push down. I wouldn't take the break and retest now. This breakout is too shallow, it's not convincing enough. But if you can push down further, then yeah, that pullback would look good. If we just kind of consolidate and mess around within this area on the market open, then we'll be looking at a deeper pullback back into that resistance around 133.782, and then I'll look for my sells to the downside. So yeah, those are the two spots I'm keeping an eye on. Obviously right now, this trade here is not quite valid yet. I haven't had a big enough breakout, so I'm only focused on this opportunity so far. But like I said, if the market is bearish on the open or just on Monday in general, then I'll be looking for this break and retest here to catch that next lower high as well at 132.400. We'll call it. Targets, we'll probably be looking at the lows here. There is some targets you can probably look to take partials or just outright target if you want to. 130 to 130.300, we'll call it. It looks like a good target. Even the consolidation just above that level could be a decent target as well. So you can keep an eye out for those levels. But this is the plan for USD JPY. We've got complete reversal on the cards here, and all we can do is just continue this bearish momentum to the downside. Hopefully we can have a pullback. This opportunity gives us better risk to rewards, but we might see some downside, which means we're going to probably only get this opportunity for next week. Doesn't really matter as long as we can profit from it. That's all that's important really. So yeah, that's the plan for USD JPY going to next week. Keep an eye on 132.356 if we get a strong push down. If not, we just move sideways. We'll be focusing on 133.750 for next week for some sales back down to 127.500. Okay, so now on to USD CAD. So USD CAD this week, this is the pair that I said gave me a good opportunity, but I just wasn't at the charts to take the trade. Break and retest onto this level. This is basically what I was looking at and the analysis I gave out at the start of the week on my Telegram and on TradingView as well. But unfortunately, the entry signal happened at 6 a.m. and I was still snoring at 6 a.m. So unfortunately missed the entry for this trade, and obviously really nice move to the upside. It probably would have just taken me out and break even, to be fair, because I probably would have placed my target up at that high there. I would have taken some partials off, so it would be a small winning trade. But I know I would have probably put my targets up there, so it would have come back down and take me out and break even. Nonetheless, it would have been a nice trade to catch. But anyway, not here to catch them all. Maybe you can catch something this week on USD CAD, because the buys still look good, but deeper down. We've already had the first reaction at this level. It didn't create some new highs, so we're looking for price to come a little bit deeper. Take out these lows here. There will be some stops underneath here. Take out the liquidity there to the downside. Test that level there around 1.36200, and possibly give us a bit of a bull flag retracement. We've got the first retracement, the second one, and then possibly get the continuation there to the upside. There's a chance, obviously, we could form a third lower high and actually reverse back down again, because if dollar is going to be weak, we'll probably see pairs like USD CAD and USD CHF roll over as well. So there's a possibility we could push up again, form a third lower high, 1, 2, and 3. And there could actually be some nice shorts to take it back down if we can get some good entry confirmation. So with USD CAD, let me just delete and start again. Buys from here look good. Brief consolidation gave us a lot of momentum to the upside, so this is a key area to look to buy from. We'll keep an eye on 1.362 for some buys up at that level, or I should say down at that level. And then there could be some nice buys, some nice sells, sorry, back at this resistance here to take it back down if we form that third lower high. So with USD CAD, my bias is still bullish, because I have to respect the structure of the market. It's still creating higher highs and higher lows. So I'm still going to be a buyer of the market. If we do get some decent price action down there, I will be interested. But this lower high there does give a red flag that we might not push all the way back to the highs. So maybe even a push back into the resistance here around 1.37550 might be a good target. Just take your profit, or at least most of your profit, and you can probably leave a little bit to trickle to see if you can get back to the highs there. But also this could be a decent trade. Now this bearish trade, this sell trade, is slightly bit more aggressive, but it could still be a decent profitable trade if you can get good reactions and good confirmations in this area. It is counter trend, but again, there are still some decent counter trend opportunities in the market which I look to trade as well. So I will be keeping an eye on that for potential sells if we are going to reverse for USD CAD. But for now, bullish structure is still intact, so we'll be looking at 1.362 for a move to the upside. And then if we start to topple out around here, there could be a third lower high for pushback down. So keep an eye on those two levels there for USD CAD. My bias is still to the upside because the structure is still bullish until we violate some lows. That's when I'll change my bias completely. But at the moment, looking for some buys from 1.362, but we'll be keeping an eye out for some sells at 1.375 for next week for USD CAD. Okay, so over to Euro Pound this week. So Euro Pound this week, some strong downside moves. I was actually looking for a big push to the upside this week, holding onto the support level and then seeing some upside. However, we broke through the support level. I actually would have taken a loss this week on Euro Pound. The entry was here on this candlestick and then a stop loss underneath. So I would have taken a loss there, but I wasn't actually at the charts on Monday. So luckily for me, I actually missed out on that trade. But yeah, I would have taken a loss if I was on the charts because that did fit my criteria. And I was looking for a move to the upside there for Euro Pound. But obviously, the support level failed and the market broke through the level, and more importantly, broke through these lows here and create some new lows behind it. So I'm now scrapping that bullish bias for Euro Pound completely. This very corrective structure seems to be running out of bullish momentum, and now we're starting to take out some lows and starting to form some lower highs here in comparison to that high up there. So I'm expecting Euro Pound to continue lower, and we could probably be coming back down to retest the consolidation down here at 0.86300. A lot of momentum came from that level. Probably going to come back and collect some more buys down at those lows. So for Euro Pound going to next week, looking at only sell opportunity. Now it's quite corrective structure, so it's definitely not going to be at the top of my watch list because it's a very, very messy structure. But 0.88300 does stand out to me. It's a nice level of resistance support there as well. If you can get another retest of that level, that could be a very nice place to look to go short and start looking for some entries to take this lower and catch that next lower high. Possibly there could be some shorts on the break and retest of the low here. But right now the market's quite shallow, hasn't really broken through that level yet. We need price to really push through and then look for the pullbacks to go short. So kind of a similar opportunity to to EURUSD and to USD as well. This could be a nice level to short from, but only if you do see more downside. The market's quite corrective, fluctuating a lot. You don't want to be taking shallow breakouts, shallow break and retest in this type of market conditions. If we were seeing a lot of momentum and the market was just clearing out highs and clearing out lows, then yeah, shallow break and retest, they do work out a lot more in those conditions. We're seeing a lot of momentum and a really strong trending market, but when it's corrected like this, you want to avoid taking shallow retracements and wait for the deeper ones. So 0.88300 will be the level of interest, but if we can push lower, then we can probably look at 0.87600 as well. But in terms of bias and direction, looking at more downside, and targets for next week, 0.86300 will be the target for next week for euro pound. Okay, so on to AUD/USD. So for this pair, we've got a similar situation as to USD CAD. The market is still giving us this bearish structure, still seeing some fairly good momentum in the market. However, the market is starting to fail to create some new lows. We had this really nice impulse to the downside, reacting with this support time resistance. However, we failed to create some new lows. So that is a slight red flag for us for AUD/USD. But again, the market could be looking to just give us a bear flag retracement and the continuation. The only reason why I'm not such a fan of that is because the market has been bearish for quite a while and we're starting to get quite corrective as well. And typically, unless we start ripping to the downside, the market's probably going to have a deeper retracement at some stage. I'm still looking at this level here, really key level support and resistance on the AUD/USD, which I highlighted maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago on the weekly analysis, videos. Which I was actually looking for us to retrace into that level, but we didn't. We had this big dump to the downside here, so we could still possibly see a bigger retracement. There's this kind of bigger head and shoulder pattern which could be at play. Something like this could be at play for AUD/USD if we decide to have a bigger retracement. But as of right now, we still do have this bearish structure, which is not violated yet. So still looking at push to the downside, hence it's kind of similar to AUD/USD. We've kind of got that potential bear flag. So impulse, correction 1, correction 2, and then continuation. But like I said, we are still forming these higher lows here. So there's still a possibility, probably coming to that level like so, and we could actually form a higher low if we get some good rejections, good confirmation. Again, it's a counter trend trade, but still could be a decent trade if we get some good entry confirmations, back to resistance, back to this area, or potentially back to the resistance, or if you're feeling brave, you got 0.688 up all the way up there. So we'll keep an eye on the sells because again, the market structure is still bearish, the trend is still bearish as well, so I have to favor sells until structure breaks. So this is the opportunity I will keep my eye on for AUD/USD. I probably do prefer USD CAD a little bit more because it's a bit more of a stronger clearance, of the liquidity of these highs here. It's a bit more of a clearer level as well. But at the same time, the structure's still there, still seeing good momentum. So we'll keep an eye on 0.67310 for some sells to the downside and target, back down to the prior lows. But we'll keep an eye also on 0.66300 because, like I said, that higher low potentially could form. And if we start to see some good confirmations and good rejections, a lot of wick rejections there, we possibly could be seeing that next push to the upside, and that head and shoulder level could be getting targeted by price. So that's the plan for AUD/USD going into next week. We're kind of trading at that kind of area of interest right now. So Monday, when the market opens, keep an eye on that level. London session, New York session could see some trades there early in the week. And if we just violate structure and start pushing higher, then yeah, that's probably where we're going for AUD/USD. So keep an eye on that level if we do see a lot of momentum to the upside for next week for AUD/USD. But this is the plan for next week. We'll keep an eye on 0.67300 and also 0.66300 because we could see some good sells, but potentially later on some good buys as well next week for AUD/USD. Okay, so now on to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD this week, some really nice upside. We did see a brief move to the downside, which is what we were looking for. I was looking for price to actually push further to the downside, but all we got was a higher low. The market continued bearish. We're looking at this bigger kind of this descending structure here with those big lower highs, 1, 2, and potentially 3. So I said some shorts coming into this area could look good. We also had a really nice support level, time resistance, which hadn't been retested yet. So we're looking for that push into that level. A lot of rejections, and then the market did see some nice downside, but then we ripped to the upside, and NZD was quite strong. So with NZD CAD here, now we're violating that structure. We do have this bullish bullish structure now created. We've got the low down here, we've got the high, higher low, higher high, and higher low, and now some new higher highs. So I'm looking to follow this bullish structure now. You can see the bearish structure starting to fail. I'm looking for us to continue further. So my bias now for NZD CAD is bullish, and I'm looking to continue this bullish structure here to the upside. And these are the two levels which I'm looking to buy from. If we continue this bullish move here, then this is a very, very big impulse. We might see just a correction to retest the prior high and see the continuation. Targets, we're probably going to look at this area here. This is a strong supply resistance zone here. A lot of momentum came to the downside from 0.866, so that's probably where my target will be. But also we'll keep an eye on this level here as well, which is the prior high. So we have the high, the last high there. The one before that was this level here as well. Taking that across, that could be used as support. If you draw the trend line from the low here to the high, we could see the market come back and retest that area of confluence, which is actually probably my preferred area to buy NZD CAD from. But we'll keep an eye on this high there, because this is a really nice breakout, good momentum. And then if you see a correction, retest that level, good confirmation, I'll still look for the entry there. If that trade fails, I have a second stab here for much better risk reward anyway. So yeah, NZD CAD's bias is definitely bullish. Looking to follow this structure here to the upside. Two areas of interest here. Number one, 0.85600. Number two, 0.85200, and both trade TPs will probably be within this area here of 0.86500 for next week. So yeah, that's the plan for NZD CAD. Some really nice bullish structure. That higher time frame bearish structure is starting to collapse now. The market looks like it's forming a bit of a double bottom. We potentially got a really big bull flag pattern here on our hands with a big impulse there. Correction 1, correction 2, possibly could be seeing something like that if that momentum sustains. So NZD CAD looking for more upside for this one. Hopefully you can get some retracement into either of those levels. We'll look for some confirmation and targets into that resistance for next week for NZD CAD. Okay, so up next, Pound NZD. So Pound NZD had a bullish bias coming into the week. We start seeing this really nice bullish structure, impulse, correction, impulse. So we're looking to continue that this week on a retest of this structure here, which we did see numerous times during the week. So there would have been some okay buy opportunities there during the week, and the market kind of just consolidated. So we didn't really go anywhere from retesting this level. And now it looks like the market is still failing to print some new highs and starting to take out these lows here. So although for Pound NZD I'm still bullish, the sign that we aren't taking out the highs and still failing is a big red flag, and it could mean that the market could look to topple soon come. But coming into the week, the buys still look good upon this structure here. Really nice support here, consecutive higher lows. The market's still printing 1, 2, 3, 4. Potentially could retest that same structure and see some upside. So although we are failing at the highs, we haven't broke through structure yet. So the market's still deemed to be bullish until we start taking out some lows. So for Pound NZD, buys look good down at 1.93476. However, I wouldn't be so confident as to push the buys all the way back to the highs there. Again, it does make sense as a strong level of resistance, but like I said, the fact that we are failing to take out the highs means that there could be a nice reaction, but it could be short-lived. The market could start printing lower high, start to roll over and break through some structure to the downside. So this does stay a big possibility. So maybe taking profit coming into the resistance here on the left around 1.95 could be a nice place to take some partials, or maybe close the trade and maybe leave a little bit to run into that resistance there, because like I said, there's a chance we could form a lower high. This could be the level that creates that lower high for push to the downside, since we are failing to seek a continuation of this bullish move. So for Pound NZD, buys are still the best bet. So like I said, structure still intact. We're still looking for a push to the downside. It would be nice if we can get a retest of this level, see some good entry confirmations. There will be some stop losses around here, people buying from that same level. So you could see that taken out to test this level with good confluence and see a reaction to the upside. So that's kind of what we're trying to anticipate here for Pound NZD. It may run to the high here, we may form a lower high, so it's up to you, where you want to take your profit and how far you want to push the trade. But both of these levels, look like good places to take your profit at, and then potentially the market might roll over. But for now, the buys are still good, still looking at pushing to 1.935 for some buys. Wait for confirmation, and then target 1.95 and target to 1.965 for next week for Pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, we're seeing some nice downside. Again, all the yen pairs kind of collapsed to the downside this week. And CAD JPY, we're looking at a pushback down to the lows. Again, same as USD JPY going to the higher time frame. You can see we've had this huge break of structure, and it looks like the market's starting to print this next lower high. We've seen some good momentum to the downside. So there's a good possibility we'll probably come into these lows, possibly take out the lows as well, and look for a retest of this structure here. This was our last resistance before we had a humongous move to the upside. Back in 2022, it's not that long ago. We could be seeing a retest of this level at 93, possibly. So we could still see a lot more downside for CAD Yen into the near future and beyond as well. And we do have this nice bearish structure here where price broke to the downside outside of the consolidation. I did say coming into the week it would be nice for a retest of the consolidation. Didn't quite see that, but we are getting these lower highs. So for CAD Yen, the bias is simple, looking for more downside for this one. Again, it's similar to USD JPY in the fact that we are really taking out these lows. The market just kind of creating the equal lows here. So shorts still look good because we're still printing, good momentum to the downside with these lower highs, but we don't want to be selling, down here unless, we see a good break on the market open or the first couple of days. Then we can look for the pullbacks to short on the retest of that structure. But if we just start moving sideways and even respect the support on Monday, we want to see a bigger move up, retest some structure up there, and that's what we want to be looking for. Our sell trades, we've got much safer stop loss and just better, placement of our trade in the first place. And targets, you can even look at this low here. Risk to reward might not be that great, depends on what entry time frame you use. Or you can target the lows here around 94.751. So that's kind of the idea I'm looking at. Like I said, there might be a break and retest on those lows, but we do need to break through first and get the pullback, and then we can look at those shorts. But this is probably the opportunity I'll be focused on for CAD Yen, a retest of 97,500, target into the prior low, and then maybe leave some to trickle into that higher time frame weekly level at 93, which does look likely to be retested. So if things look good, I'll probably will leave that small amount to trickle if I can get into the trade for CAD Yen. So yeah, just looking to continue this bearish trend. Look for that next lower high around 97,500. Then we'll start looking for some entries to take this further to the downside with targets at 94,791 into next week. Okay, so for pound USD, so for this one, huge move to the upside this week. Well, actually, it wasn't quite that huge to be fair. The market really did this huge move last week. So we gapped to the upside and broke through some structure, which is what I was looking for just did CAD Yen, which is what I was looking for pound USD to hold coming into the week. We had this really nice descending structure here, seeing these lower lows and lower highs. So I was looking for the market to basically just hold this area and see that next kind of swing to the downside. But as you can see, we've broken through that and now getting a successful retest of that structure. So with pound USD, we haven't cleared the highs just yet. So we've got this big bullish move, which could look to topple out and come back down again. Because if the market is going to sell off, you would expect the market to respect those highs, break through these lows, and then we can get the pullback and then short. But at the moment, it looks like we have fully broken out of this descending structure. We're starting to see some higher lows print. And if we can take out that high, then I will only be looking for buys next for pound USD. So if we can see a break structure to the upside, so I won't be looking for buys just yet. We need to break for the highs first. If we break for the highs, then I'll be looking for buys, and depends how big. If it's a big breakout impulsive move, then I'll look for the retest of the structure here for the long opportunities. Or if it's a slightly deeper pullback, then I may consider looking at some structure, some small structure within there, or even just maybe back at the prior low as well. We could double bottom before we push up, something like this, and then get the continuation. But first, we do need to take out the highs to show me that, okay, we've got the impulse, which is this leg, we've got the correction, which is this leg, and now we've got the impulse. Now I've got some valid bullish structure to work with, where I can look for the next higher low and buy up. I don't want to be anticipating the higher low forming, but we haven't even got solid bullish structure yet with the impulse, correction, impulse. So yeah, that will be the plan for pound USD. Looking for buys. The sells, like I said, we need to break through these lows and double top out. If we can get the double top, break for the lows, then the sells will be back on, and then we can start selling. But if we do see that dollar weakness continue, we push up, break the highs, then I only will be focused on the buys. Yeah, this will be the opportunities I'll be looking at for pound USD. Again, it's only valid if we take out the resistance here at 1.219. And then yeah, buys back to the double top pattern here is quite a clear level. 1.24 is probably the best place to put your TP. And it's a good chance we could probably see another reaction when we get there as well. So that will be the plan going into next week for pound USD. Keep an eye on the retest of the highs there if you can get that impulsive break, or one of these two levels here at 1.21 or 1.205. Anywhere in here, looking for that next high low to form, or just equal lows there. And then we look for the buys for some entries to take it back up again. But yeah, pound USD, the bias is about to switch bullish if we take out the highs, and then we can start looking for our trade. So that will be the plan for next week for pound USD. Okay, so up next we've got pound CAD. So pound CAD this week, mainly just correction, and then the last day or so, we did see some nice continuation to the upside. Haven't taken out the highs yet, but yeah, pound CAD is looking bullish coming into the week. We look for the retest of the structure here. Didn't quite see it, unfortunately. The market missed it by a few pips there. We have had the big breakout of this kind of wedge pattern. You can see the low highs and the equal lows here, so price was squeezing, and now it's broken to the upside. So he said we're looking for the retest of the structure for price to continue higher. Obviously we just missed it by a few pips there, unfortunately, but we still haven't hit the target yet, which is still at that resistance. So there could be opportunity to trade this if we can have a pullback further. There's two kind of areas I'm looking at, possibly this area here, or just double bottom out there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for pound CAD. The risk reward doesn't look too good on the break of the high and the retest. I mean, if you drop to the lower time frames, by that I mean 15-minute, probably you might get a decent risk rewards. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's much space to work with on a break and retest of the high unless you go to the lower time frame. So a retest of 1.664 or retest of 1.65 we'll be looking for a push. Even a retest of this structure, because we haven't formed some new highs yet, so we could still see a bull flag retracement, impulse, correction 1, correction 2, retest that structure, take out these weaker lows, and then we can get a bigger move to the upside. So all three are definitely valid areas to buy from. If I had to pick one to choose from, it probably would be this level. This is still the stronger level, but like I said, we don't always get what we want. We might get a shallow retracement, test on that, and then the continuation. But keep an eye on all three levels. Again, what validates the trade is a good entry signal, and that's what you want to be taking it on. Even if you do get into the trade twice, say the first one fails and then the second one works, your risk reward will cover you. So don't be too afraid to get in just because you feel like price might retrace a little bit further. These are still good levels to work from, and even this one here as well, which is where I would like to get the buy from, but we probably might just get a shallow retracement and then a continuation. We might not even get retracement. The market might just open bullish and push up without us. But that will be the plan for pound CAD. Bullish bias. We're seeing some good structure. We've broken out that kind of big wedge pattern. So all we're looking for is just to continue this bullish momentum until we get to 1.68, and then we can reassess from there. So yeah, that's the plan. Keep an eye on these three levels: 1.66, 1.664, 1.656, and also 1.649. And looking for continuations back to 1.68 for next week. Okay, so pound yen this week, some really nice downside. Again, we were looking at pound yen last week, and I said there wasn't really anything clear because the market was still printing these higher highs and higher lows. We hadn't actually violated structure yet, and I said because we had this big impulse up followed by an impulse back down, it did tell us that potentially we could be looking at a reversal because the bullish momentum started to deplete. We're not seeing price create new highs anymore, so there was a big possibility that we'll take up these lows, which is what we wanted for us to start looking for some sells. We had this big impulse down, didn't really see what I wanted. I was looking for the retest of that structure, price just broke straight back above. Then it started messing around there, and then we had that big sell-off from the yen pairs. And since then, I've been looking for some retracement to sell this one to the downside. And now I'm looking for price to probably push all the way back down to these lows here. Reason being, if I look at the higher time frame structure, this sell-off is slightly counter trend. The trend is still kind of bullish here, even though it's kind of a weird market. We've had this kind of huge sell-off there, price recovered quite quickly. So it's a really weird market for pound yen, but you can see there's a gradual incline to it. So it is a bit counter trend, but the market's formed this high 1, this high 2, and looking at potentially that third lower high. Like I always say, if you are going to trade counter trend, you want to always be trading on that, or at least that third lower high, even if price hasn't broken through structure yet. So anticipating a push back down into the support level from a daily perspective. So taking that information to the 4H hourly, we're looking for just good places to sell this to the downside. So pound yen going to next week, this is a nice resistance here. There's some good confluence at this resistance, pulling back into the 0.618. This is where I'll be looking to sell even higher up as well. If you come into the 0.786 and retest that kind of supply area there. That was our last support before we broke through. If you do see a bigger retracement, I will not be put off selling that for pound yen. So these are my two areas of interest. Retest that high there, double top it, then we can roll over. Or if we spike a little bit high into 0.786, we even got the trend line there acting as some more confluence, and we look for some entries around that area. So yeah, this is kind of my setup that I will be looking at for pound yen. I really do like the pair, really good price action, good momentum to the downside. It's a little bit corrective, so that's why we're focusing, on these levels here, not trying to get too nitty gritty details into the lower time frames and all of this kind of noise there, because there's a good chance of taking some unnecessary losses just to see the market, dump in your favor. But yeah, we've got the lower highs here, the market's been creating, and these lower lows as well. So all we're looking for is that next lower high, which looks like it's in development now. And then yeah, continuations. Again, depends on risk to reward. You can look just to take it back to the low of the wick there. There's some support here on the left you can look to aim for, or just the prior swing lows all the way there. Obviously, the further you go, the less likely price will get there. So it's up to you and your risk to reward and how you want to manage your trades. But for me, again, depends on risk to reward. Either I'll probably aim for that low, or I'll probably just push it into this low and try and hit a slightly bigger risk to reward trade, because the high time frames do look good. So I may try and push it a little bit further in this situation. But if I can get 1 to 3, I might just call it a day into that low. Obviously, I'll let you guys know on my Telegram during the week, what my plans are. But this is the trade ideas I'm looking at. Look to catch the next lower high, areas of interest 162 and also 163, and overall targets back down at 156 for next week. Okay, so now on to gold, and you can see it's not even on the screen there. That's how bullish gold was this week. I think we opened around here, and the market just was not messing around this week, and just ripping to the upside. Coming into the week, I was looking for corrections to maybe retest this level, and I said if you can see a bit more momentum, I'll keep an eye on this high there as well. But yeah, just nowhere near did we get that retracement into those levels, and price just continued. It would have been a nice little break and retest here on the lower time frames back to the highs. But yeah, I'm not sure many people would have expected Bitcoin just to keep ripping to the upside like it did. Bitcoin, did I say Bitcoin? Gold. But yeah, gold is on the higher time frames. Again, with moves like this, you've got to zoom out and see the bigger picture of things. We've got the all-time highs here for gold at 2076. Potentially that could be where we're after. We've had this kind of bull flag retracement here, big impulse to the upside, correction 1, correction 2, just about missed the highs there, take out the weaker lows. This could actually continue to rip to the upside. So we're just going to be looking at a push back to the resistance here for gold. We've got good momentum, prices clearing out highs. Now a really nice retest of this structure here at these lows, and we should be looking for that momentum to continue as long as we maintain that bullish structure on lower time frames. So for gold, all we're looking for is some downside this week to buy it back up essentially. Areas of interest, this will be a very nice area. I'm not too sure if we'll get there. If the momentum sustains, this would be a nice area. But also for gold, it could just be a situation where we create levels of support resistance within the week and use that same support resistance to continue higher, because there's a good possibility we could open bullish. You can see the market has no wick to the upside, so on the closure there the market was still pushing to the upside. So there's a good possibility we could actually see a gap to the upside, and maybe price on Monday just continues to push, and then we get a pullback on Tuesday. Maybe price creates some support, retest it Wednesday, and then we get the continuation to the upside. So we could get the market just create a level of support, excuse me, and then continue higher from that. So I think that's more of a trade for the lower time frames, and by that I mean hourly, 30 minutes, maybe even lower as well. But for me on the 4H, these are my only levels that I can work with. Above that, there's nothing to look at. And the next kind of major level is the all-time high resistance around 2040, 2050. So yeah, with gold, I want to see some retracement. 1960, 1930 is my areas of interest. Will we get a retracement there? I'm not too sure. Again, I'm not really too bothered. Some really good pairs, some really good opportunities this week, especially on the yen pairs, which is where my main focus will be. Maybe the dollar pairs as well, actually, apart from gold. So I do have quite a few pairs that interest me this week that look good. So I'm not really too bothered if I can't find an entry for gold. But looking at the analysis, these are the only two levels that are valid to buy from, apart from if we create levels within the week, which just haven't formed yet. So keep an eye for some levels that create during the week. Again, if you're in the low time frames, that's what you're going to be looking at. But on the full H, those are the two levels we can only work with. So if you can get some retracing back down there, can start looking for some entries, simple break and retest patterns, and then we'll look to continue that higher with that weekly target in mind, that strong resistance around 20, 30, 20, 40. So that'll be the plan next week for gold. It's just expecting more upside for this one. Okay, so up next we got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin crazy move to the upside this week. We're actually looking for more downside coming into the week for Bitcoin on the retest of some structure. Retest of the support level here, retest of this consolidation. However, Bitcoin wasn't having any of that. It completely just ripped through those levels and started to rip through these highs as well. So Bitcoin's been on a crazy one, breaking through 25k, which is again a very important piece of structure. So I do expect Bitcoin to continue some retracements, corrections to the downside, and then probably another impulse. It looks like we are coming to that infamous 30k level. So we're going to see what happens here for Bitcoin, because I still do expect to see a strong reaction from here and probably a lower high form. The market starts rolling over again. But yeah, for me, for Bitcoin, because this impulse here to the downside, this sell-off here looks like an absolute fake move here. We're looking for the continuation of that, but the market just continued higher. So this was like a fake move, breaking out of these lows here, taking some weaker lows, and then using that liquidity to actually fund that move to the upside. So looking for the retest of this high here, and then the continuation, and then we'll be expecting 30k, 31k into that higher time frame level, and then we can probably start to see price start to have a deeper retracement and maybe come right back down again. So eyes for me for the sells are back up 30k, 31k, but for the buys, 25k, and the retest of that structure looks very good. I don't think we've had the retest yet. Yeah, prices just shot through that, so we could see price come back down, retest that, and then continue. Maybe even if price is really bullish, we might only see the retest of this high, and then price continues there on the full H as well. So keep an eye on 26,250, but also 25k more importantly. So yeah, Bitcoin for now, definitely bullish, really strong move to the upside, fade to the downside. So looking for a correction continuation, and then targets will be around 30, 31k, and then potentially you might see some good sells shortly after that. So this is the setup. Keep an eye on for Bitcoin. Again, entry time frame, I think 4H is just a really good entry time frame to trade Bitcoin. It's not too small where you go into the nitty-gritty details of the minor fluctuation of Bitcoin, but you can still get some really good risk reward trading in the higher time frame moves, which is kind of where the money's at with Bitcoin. So that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, and then possibly some sells up there, but we'll take a look in more detail when we actually get there. So keep an eye on that for Bitcoin for next week. And last but not least, our bonus pair for this week, which is Euro Yen. So like I said, I really do like the Yen pairs, especially Euro Yen, Pound Yen. To be fair, a lot of them, USD JPY looks good, CAD Yen looks good. But Euro Yen for me is probably the pick of the bunch, and hopefully I can get a setup for this one. But again, start with the higher time frames. You can see similar to Pound Yen, we'll form these lower highs here. We have the original higher high, next lower high, and the third lower high. So we're now looking for a push into this low. Again, it is counter trend. The trend is still to the upside here, but we're starting to topple out. The market's failing to create these higher highs. So we're looking for a move to the downside to retest the lows, potentially some lower lows as well. Again, every reversal starts with a counter trend move, and then that counter trend either continues to form the reversal or snaps back in the direction of the higher time frame trend. But all we're looking for is a push into the support level. Have some really strong failures for the market to continue higher. Now we're seeing some good momentum to the downside, so probability is the market will continue lower, retest the support, and maybe even break through as well. So now we just need to find some good areas to get involved, and there's two areas I'm looking at: a retest of that resistance or a retest of this support level here. Similar setup to Pound Yen as with the levels we're looking at. So I'll probably just pick, which one looks the best in terms of risk to reward and best entry signal, and just trade that one there. But yeah, they both look like really good opportunities. Euro Yen as well looks really good as well. Looking at both of these levels, good confluence at both of these levels. Just looking for the retest of that structure at 142, or the retest of this level at 142,700. and then the continuations into the support level on the daily. You can always just trade to this low as well. You know, if you're on the lower time frames, you know, it's up to you. I know, manage your trading where you want to take your profit. But 140, 139, 800 looks like a good level to take some profit at as well. But yeah, for Euro Yen next week, definitely looking for sales. Really nice impulse to the downside, humongous candle there, clearing out the lows there. So all we're looking for is the next level high, and then continuations lower. So that'll be the plan for next week for Euro Yen, which concludes this video, guys. So thank you so much for tuning into the video. If you are enjoying the content, please be sure to leave a like on the video. It does really help out the channel. Subscribe if you haven't done already, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any uploads or streams in the future. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Leave a comment down below if you're enjoying the videos, or you want to ask me a question or anything. Leave a comment down below, I will reply to you. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.